All right. Welcome to super blurry, low light video. Fuck, man. Listen. Sun's gonna come up soon, probably during this video. Sorry about the wipers. Everything's icy. Listen. It is what it is. But today I wanted to talk about. It's another balance talk, design balance and stuff, but specifically. More through the lens of player perception and metagames and that kind of thing. And the real world example, trademark, that I'm going to use is Pokemon. So, I don't know if you, dear viewer, know that much about Pokemon competitively. Everybody knows about Pokemon. But competitively, it's a whole different thing. You may or may not have been into it, or at the very least, you might be able to, extrapolate some things once I start talking about it. But generally, at least from my perspective, the main competitive thing is a community called Smogon. They run an emulator called Showdown. I don't know why there's two different names. But all it is just the pure battling simulator you play on your computer. You know how it goes. Because, newsflash, getting a competitive team ready on the actual cartridge is a fucking nightmare. And that's today. Like 15 years ago, when I was doing it, oh my god, what the fuck? Terrible. It would take you, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours to get one Pokemon ready. If you're lucky. Back when I was in college, I was making competitive teams on the cartridge, and it was I would play, in my free time and when I'm not studying or doing something else. And it took me a whole semester to put 2 or 3 teams together. I didn't have a specific. I just made a bunch of competitive Pokemon. I didn't make 3 specific teams. Whatever. Point is, it takes a while, and it's really fucking annoying. There's IV breeding, EV training. You gotta, wait for nature's whole ever step. It's a whole fucking thing. But anyway, Showdown, the emulator, and metagames. In Showdown, there's several different metagames. The main one is called OU, which stands for overuse. That's the default main style everybody plays in. And that it's organized by what Pokemon are used most. They're the most popular, they're the most powerful. And, there's thousands and thousands of people playing this, so there's enough of a big, a sample group to kind of get those statistics. Then above that, there's a tier called Ubers, which is where most of the legendaries go. And under OU, there's UU, underused, and then it keeps going down, blah, blah, blah. But since second generation, Silver, Tyranitar has been OU. There's been lots of Pokemon that have been OU for a very long time and have fallen off or dipped down and then dipped back up. Zapdos was one of those. Zapdos was OU for a really long time and then dipped down in Generation 4 or something, and then came back up and is just around. But Tyranitar was one of the top 10 Pokemon for 20 years because it is an excellent competitive Pokemon. It's got everything you really want. It's got a variety of sets you can run, a variety of ways to play it, but they all center around mostly its ability, Sandstorm, or Sandstream, where when it switches in, it summons a Sandstorm. And that's a weather condition. It does chip damage to everything on the field that aren't certain types, of which Tyranitar is one. Rock, ground, or steel. Everything else takes damage. And while in the weather condition, rock types gain an additional 50% boost to their special defense, which makes them really tanky. Really helps out their defense, because rock types aren't good at that. Weird. But not the point. In addition to that, Tyranitar learns a bunch of different important moves. He learns Dragon Dance for setup. He can boost his stats and boost his speed and kind of go to town and win the game, if you're familiar with what a sweeper is, but I'm not going to go into that. And it learned it had lots of other really important tools. Pursuit was a very important move. It could run different items, all sorts of stuff. And you could pair it with a lot of important Pokemon. In Generation 5, it got its most infamous partner, Excadrill, which is like a ground steel mole thing, physical attacker, and it gets an ability Sand Rush, where in Sandstorm, its speed is doubled. And getting your speed doubled is very good. It ends up, I think Excadrill's base speed stat is like 60 or 70, and having your speed doubled is better than having the base stat doubled, because of the way stat increases and leveling up in that game works. So it would have like the equivalent of like 160 base speed instead of 140 or 50, whatever its actual base speed was. So it was really fast and would just tear through teams. And those two with like some other sand abusers, like Garchomp was also very, very good for a very long time. But in the recent generations, particularly the most recent generation, two important things happened to shift the metagame a little bit. One, two other weather styles became even more important. One, and there can only be one weather condition at a time, so that's important. Sun, which is the fire type weather, became way more important in the most recent generation, because a whole class of Pokemon have an ability that powers them up in Sun, whether they're fire type or not. So Sun became very important. Two, Tyranitar lost Pursuit, because Pursuit was removed from the game. And what Pursuit does, it's a semi-trapping move. What it would do is it's a low-power Dark-type move. But if you use it on the same turn your opponent switches out, it hits them before they switch out, which is the whole point of switching. Switching is supposed to happen first, so you avoid damage. So it hits them anyway. And it doubles damage. And there's a lot of key Pokemon that are like either physically frail or they might be weak to dark. So this would hit them really hard and probably just kill them a lot of the time, because Tyranitar is really fucking strong. He lost that, and Excadrill was not in this generation. So he lost, like, Sand lost a little viability, lost a little importance in the metagame. Tyranitar lost one of his key tools and one of his key partners in crime. So the metagame shifted around him. He got one direct nerf, losing Pursuit, and then two indirect nerfs through the metagame changing, via losing a partner and the other weathers becoming more important. It's not that Sand got less important, it's that other weathers got more important. So people were more often running those other weather setting abilities, those other weather styles. So there's always a give or take. And recently, very recently, there's been an uptick in Tyranitar usage. There's other Pokemon that can abuse sand. And these shifts kind of just happen in Pokemon competitive. It's like it mostly revolves around what people are using, because there's so many options and things you can do with a team. Like, and what you do depends on what other people are doing. This has happened in the past tons and tons of times. Like, older generations still get played competitively, like Gen 4, Gen 5. Gen 4 is widely regarded as really, really fun. So people play that, and there's been shifts in that metagame. Like, I remember seeing people talk about it, like, oh, this Pokemon that nobody used in years is now suddenly OU. It's actually really good. It's just you got to use it in a really specific way that nobody really thought of. Or, like, there's lots of examples like that. Or, another concept in Pokemon is checks and counters. So, a check and a counter are just something that beats another Pokemon. And, like, let's say you build your whole team and you have a weakness to something that's really, like, you've got a lot of special attackers and you don't have much, like, fighting type damage or anything like that. So your team is going to be really vulnerable to Blissey and Chansey, normal type special walls that you just can't do much against. So you need either a check or a counter to Blissey or Chansey. Usually just a physical fighting type, something like that. And something that can just take care of Blissey or at least scare it out, so that you can switch into your team. And, there's lots of switching in competitive Pokemon. But let's say you start running this team and you realize nobody's running Blissey or Chansey. Like, just nobody is. So, in a meta sense, Blissey and Chansey are not threats. Like, they're not there. They're not important. So, you stop running that Blissey check. You run something else that can do something else for you. Because in a competitive team, each Pokemon's going to have like a specific role. Like, this is what they do. They set spikes. They are your setup sweeper. They're your wall breaker. They're your defensive pivot. There's all sorts of different roles you can assign to a Pokemon. But if you're not seeing Chansey or Blissey, then that Blissey check, you're not getting much value out of them. And maybe you just have them there just in the background because the rest of your team can do the job on their own. As long as you can get rid of Blissey, they just run wild and you just win. Let's say you have a team that's good enough to do that somehow. But more often than not, you'll start to think like, okay, I don't see Blissey and Chansey as much. Maybe I can either totally get rid of my Blissey check, but if your team literally falls apart if Blissey shows up, you may want to keep something that can still act as a Blissey check, but still do other things. So you might run something like, instead of just a pure, like, physical fighting type that he shows up and his job is to kill Blissey. Instead, you might run something like, just a physical attacker that can do something else. Like, you might run a Garchomp. And, yeah, you might run even a tankier Garchomp that utilizes, that, like, sets spikes and has a nice, like, is using a Rocky Helmet combined with its Rough Skin ability, so that it punishes contact moves. Most things that attack physically will take chip damage from hitting this Garchomp. So maybe you could do that. That would be a fine thing to run instead. Like, it could still do something to Blissey, especially because a Pokemon like Blissey is going to rely on contact moves to do something. But it's not the best check in the world. But the point is, you might pivot to running something that's more of it can do other stuff, but still kind of act as a Blissey check. So why am I talking about this? Well, balance is tricky in a game, in a competitive game, and it matters a lot less in something like D&D, which is a cooperative game. It's as long as everything's kind of viable, it'll work. Like you're good, it's good enough. Like if you can run something and it's not an active detriment to your team, it'll work. Like this is kind of the problem that like wild sorcery has a lot of the time. It can be an active detriment to your team, but people still run it because it's competitive. You're not trying to win a tournament. It's whatever. Everybody kind of like, okay, we can deal with this. It's fine because it's fun. But if something is like you're not quote pulling your weight in any way, it can be trickier. But even then, there are still meta-defining choices to make. Like in 2014 5e, it's, if you're a martial, you're most likely going to be either doing crossbow expert, sharpshooter, great weapon master, something or other. Because those are the optimal choices. Those are the best damage you can get. That's how you can, keep up with stuff. And a lot of these can be fixed by the DM handing out more powerful weapons to the marshals. But a big point of view, a big perspective is that the DM shouldn't have to fix it. But that's usually what happens. So or in other competitive games, or not competitive, other cooperative games, like something like anything, like a horde shooter, like like in Destiny, or in the game I'm playing, Space Marine, or in Monster Hunter. Anything where there's lots of build choices and individual choices a player can make on how to build a character. There's going to be meta-defining choices. There's going to be one class or one weapon or one whatever that's going to be the best option, and there's going to be other options that are worse. It's just how balancing works. Like even if you like mathematically balance everything with like fire rate, damage, range, reload speed, like you balance all these varying properties against each other. Even if you do all that, there's still going to be emergent meta options. Sometimes it's because those are actually the best in the slot, and sometimes it's because the players are like, oh yeah, this is the best. Because it just works out the best for some other thing you can't really define. Like in Space Marine 2, there's a weapon, the bolt rifle has a variation where it gets an underslung grenade launcher. And there's been a variety of changes to it. It used to be the best weapon in the game because with the tactical class, because they got a perk that whenever they whenever they killed a Majoris level enemy, they would refund their ammo. And that interacted, I think it was like on a 15 or 20, 30 second cooldown, something like that. But the way that interacted with the grenades is that it just refilled all your grenades instead of like refilling a magazine. Because the grenades didn't have an ammo reserve, they just had a magazine of like 5 or 6 grenades. So you would like destroy a horde of Majoris with this grenade launcher, and you just get all your grenades back, and then you walk into the next room and you just obliterate it. Like, I was playing at this time, and whenever I was playing with a tactical using this build, the whole mission was just invalidated because they would walk in and destroy all the enemies. Like, I didn't even get to play the game. But they nerfed it in a lot of ways. And now the grenades don't interact with that perk at all. They only refill from big ammo crates. And these are like placed at checkpoints throughout the level. And in operations, that weapon's kind of because like there can be a long time between ammo crates, so you won't use your grenades as much. So it's like, it's not great in operations, but in siege mode, you can place your own ammo crates because you're in just like a central area. Enemies come to you and you just kill them all. You can refill your grenades very easily. Losing my voice. So in siege mode, that weapon becomes really good because you can just refill your grenades almost whenever you want, because you just got to walk over to the ammo crate and that's it. And those are like two, like, where weapon viability is influenced by the situation, the meta, like what's going on outside of the weapons themselves. So and that happens in D&D and everything. Like, it's unavoidable. You cannot escape meta defining options. You just can't. Yeah, that's all I really got for you today. Just wanted to talk about that. I got to talk about Pokemon for a long time. Haven't really talked about Pokemon with anybody because I haven't really played it in like... I haven't done competitive Pokemon in a long time, and I haven't played the games in a long time because the game, that's a whole separate topic. Don't get me fucking started on Pokemon, on the actual Pokemon games. But yeah, that's all I got for today.